Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for March 14th, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Today was snowy with strong northwest winds, so there would be nothing migrating, so I did not conduct the Hawk Watch today. I thought I would briefly give the forecast for the next few days and then answer some Hawk Watch frequently asked questions regarding when to visit, what we see, some of the etiquette, things like that. Tomorrow is looking partly cloudy with a high of 37 and winds west-northwest at 15 to 25 miles per hour. So a little bit of sunshine is always good. It might actually be quite sunny, but the wind direction isn't great. It's a medium wind direction for us, but it's a pretty strong wind. So I would only expect there to be light migration for tomorrow. On Thursday, however, it's looking cloudy with a high of 46, so much warmer than it's been recently. Winds west-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So those are good winds, good wind direction, and pretty good speed. So I would expect Thursday to be a much better day than we've had recently. So it should be the turning point where the numbers start to pick up. For Friday, we're looking at rain with a high of 46. Winds south at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So those are good winds. We'll just have to see what ends up happening with this rain. If it's gloomy and rainy, might not get a flight at all. But if there's breaks in the rain, then we might get somewhat of a flight on those favorable southerly winds. Okay, let's jump into some FAQs. Where is the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch? The Braddock Bay Hawk Watch is located on the south shore of Lake Ontario, near Rochester, New York, USA. The main spot that the count is run is from the wooden platform in Braddock Bay Park. But when there's a northeasterly lake breeze, we sometimes move into Frisbee Hill, which is another nearby park about a mile inland. Is it free to participate? Yes, it's always free to participate, and there's no admission fee to the parks. What is the purpose of the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch? The main purpose of the Hawk Watch is to collect data about how many of each species of raptor is migrating through this area. And by collecting that data year after year long term, we're able to see the changes in the numbers and see how that shows changes in raptor populations or differences in migratory behavior. When is the count run? The count is run every day in March, April, and May, unless there's inclement weather. And there's also another count that's run in August for the dispersal of juvenile redtails. Do the raptors fly across the lake? In general, no, they don't. When we're seeing raptors go by, they're following the southern shore of Lake Ontario, heading east until they can get around the lake and continue north. We do occasionally see raptors such as peregrine falcons or ospreys that seem to be heading directly north out over the lake, but the vast majority of migrants don't want to be out over the water. They want to stay over land where there's thermals and it makes it easier for them to migrate. How many raptors do you see in a season? In a typical season, we get somewhere in the ballpark of 60 to 70,000 migrating raptors. Some seasons are higher and some are lower. I think the highest seasons are up in the ballpark of 100,000 raptors. How many raptors can I expect to see in a day? This really depends on the time of the season and also the weather conditions. So if there's poor weather conditions early in the season, like we've had so far this year, maybe we're getting anywhere from a few raptors up to a couple dozen. As the season starts to pick up, any moderately good day, we'll start to see hundreds of migrating raptors. And on good days, we can see thousands of them. Even last year, we had a day with 10,000 raptors and another day with 15,000. And the record days are more up in the 30 to 40,000 raptor range. So it all depends on multiple factors, but if you're coming out on a day that looks decent, usually you'll see at least a couple hundred. What are the best weather conditions? Usually the best conditions we want to look for is southwesterly winds that are moderate to strong and a mix of sun and clouds. What time of day is best? I always tell people that mid to late morning is usually the best time because that's when most of the raptors are going to start coming out and flying as the thermals build for the day. And that's when they tend to be lower. If you wait until the afternoon, sometimes the migrants are up really high. And also on days with southwest winds, sometimes we have that favorable wind early, but then as the day goes on, a lake breeze kicks in. So that's not to say that we never have days where the afternoon isn't better than the morning, because we certainly do. But in general, I'd say mid to late morning is the best time. I'm usually starting the Hawk Watch no later than 9. So somewhere in that range, 9 to 10, 11 a.m. Where can I see the daily results? I always direct people to hawkcount.org. And we just saw it a few minutes ago when I was showing the forecast. But throughout the day, as I'm entering data, that gets updated in real time, so you can see the results throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, I also type up a full summary of the day in terms of raptors, the weather, non-raptor highlights, number of visitors, things like that. And I also put that information on the Braddock Bay Raptor Research Facebook page, so you can follow it there as well. What is Dunkadoo? Dunkadoo is a service that allows us to enter data from the field using a smartphone. That data then gets forwarded to Hawk Count. So you can also follow the daily totals on the Dunkadoo website, but I think Hawk Count is a little bit easier to use, and it shows you all the hawk watches in the country, so it's a little bit more fun. How do you know you aren't counting the same birds twice? The simple answer is that we're counting the birds that are coming from in front of us, and we count them as they go by. So on a big migration day, you'll notice that there's just an endless stream of hawks moving in that one direction. Now, that's not to say that we don't have local raptors. Obviously, you get things like bald eagles that hang around and hunt and move between the ponds. So we like to look for some migratory behavior, which on a good migration day, usually they're up higher, they're circling to gain altitude and then gliding in the correct direction. On the slower days, you might have some local stuff moving around. Sometimes we'll count a bird going by, but then if one of the same species comes back, we'll take it off the list. So it always comes down to being a judgment call, and you just do the best that you can. What should I bring to the Hawk Watch? First of all, you want to have a pair of binoculars. That's probably the most important. And if you have a spotting scope or a camera, I would also recommend bringing that. Recommend wearing appropriate clothing, depending on how hot or cold it is. Here in Rochester, it's usually on the cold side. And remember, you're kind of exposed to the wind, and you're going to be sitting or standing, but not moving around much. So it usually feels colder than it would otherwise be if you were in a protected area or moving around. So it's always good to wear layers, and just always bring one more layer than you think you'll need. It's also good to bring sunscreen just to stay protected from being out in the sun so long. And also bring any food or water that you need. And on busier days where people know there might not be room on the platform for everyone, sometimes people bring their own chair to sit on. What binoculars do you recommend? Typical birding binoculars work fine for hawk watching, so that would normally be something like a pair of 8x42 binoculars or 10x42. And again, that first number, 8 or 10, is the magnification, so things look 8 times bigger than they do to the naked eye. I would avoid any binoculars that are kind of gimmicky, anything that's really high powered, anything that has a zoom that goes from one magnification to another, anything that has a built-in camera, that kind of stuff. Just a little bit of gimmicky, and you're better off just sticking with a safe, solid 8x42 pair of binoculars. The one exception to that would be image stabilization binoculars that some companies put out, and if you have really shaky hands, they can work quite well, but they're pretty expensive as well. And with binoculars, you get what you pay for. So I recommend 8x42. Well, you can spend $25 on a pair of 8x42 binoculars, or you can spend $3,000. They're still the same size lenses and the same magnification, but the difference is really in the quality of the glass and in the coatings and in the build quality. So I would recommend not going cheaper than a couple $100s for binoculars. I think in that $200 to $300 price range, you can get some decent stuff. But if you're able to afford it, I really recommend going with high quality binoculars. You're spending $2,000 or $3,000, and it's something that'll last you for the rest of your life. So may as well spend the big money once, get something that's really good quality, and you'll never regret it. Am I allowed on the platform? Yes, anyone is welcome to come up on the platform. Most days, it's not a problem because it won't be filled. On the busiest days, the platform does tend to fill up, so if it's crowded up top, maybe you're better off staying down below in the grass, which many people do. You can always be down below, but stick close to the platform so you can hear what's going on a little bit better. What other etiquette should I follow? I would say don't touch other people's equipment without permission. If you don't have a spotting scope and someone's looking at something, ask permission to use their scope. Don't just go up to someone's scope and start using it. Don't stand in front of other people and block their view. And if it's a busy day, don't distract the hawk counter. How are the locations of birds called out? When we call out birds, we usually do it in terms of a landmark. So that would be kind of left to right, something on the horizon. So like off to the right, we have the east spit, then we have the barrier island, we have the west spit. We might talk about the pear tree, which is just to the right of the boardwalk. We have the boardwalk and the boardwalk tree. We have the eagle tree out across the bay, the willows, the parkway pines, the corner pines. So we have all these different landmarks that we might use to reference where a bird is at in terms of left to right. And then in terms of how high they are, we call it out in terms of glasses. And a glass is simply a binocular field of view. So if we say a bird is one glass up, that means if you put the bottom of your binocular field of view on the horizon, the bird would be at the very top of the view. So it's just a simple way to get a rough measurement. Because someone might be looking down low, but if we say, no, it's 3 glasses up, they know, I need to look up quite high. Today is Pi Day. Can you recite the first 50 decimal places of pi? Of course I can, and I'll even close my eyes so you know I'm not cheating. 3.14159265358979323846264338327950288419716939937510. That's what you get when you're a math major turned hawk counter. And last question, anything else to know about the Hawk Watch? I would say keep an eye on the weather and look at the daily reports to see what I'm forecasting for the next few days and which days are looking good. And then just come on out and have fun and learn. And feel free to come out on days that are a bit slower as well. That's when I'll have more time to talk a little bit more and maybe teach a little more thoroughly. Whereas on busier days, I might not have as much time for one-on-one chatting because I'm more distracted with the count. And if you have any more questions you think of, you can put them in the comments and I'll answer them there. Or maybe I'll collect some and do more FAQs on another snowy or rainy day. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.